In an accelerating world, issues like change, transition, technology, and digitalization can be seen either as opportunities or overwhelming challenges. But one thing is certain, they are the facts of modern corporate life. Guiding clients through the impact of change and mining it is the speciality of L.E.K Consulting to create efficiency, effectiveness, and value. I'm Andrew Wilson. Welcome to Davos 2020, where we're looking at the art of thinking ahead. Rob, good to talk to you. Before we get started, give us an idea about L.E.K Consulting. What kind of services you're hired to provide?
L.E.K Consulting is a global management consulting firm. We're focused on the issues of corporate development, in particular strategic decision-making, growth, strategy, and mergers and acquisitions. We work with our clients across industries, across geographies. A lot of the issues we deal with relate to technological disruption.
Well, give us an idea of the pluses and minuses of new technology.
Well, technology and the speed of technological change is increasing, as everybody sees. And in some cases, those things are threats to our clients. In other cases, they're opportunities. What we do is we try to work with our clients to try to understand how they inform growth strategy. And we do it along the traditional ways of thinking through opportunities to improve efficiency, opportunities to improve effectiveness. But more importantly, what are the opportunities to really change a business model, to change a competitive position in the marketplace?
They, of course, will have their own thoughts about this, and they are the experts in their own particular field. What can you bring to the relationship? What can you bring to this business model that they can't provide for themselves?
A lot of what we bring to bear is objectivity, rigor, analysis, lessons learned from other industries, an ability to be proactive, challenge them a bit to get outside of their comfort zones and think about things in a more holistic way. We don't come in and try to pretend that we know their business better than they do, and we're definitely not the technological expert on anything. What we really bring to bear are the commercial considerations around technology and what should you do about it.
How much of that is diagnosis and dealing with perhaps a certain mindset that could do with some refining or alteration, and how much of it is implementation?
A lot of it is the diagnosis. Some of it is the implementation. You need to do both. The diagnosis part of it is of course important, because if you don't understand what you're going to do with technology, how do you capitalize on it? How do you defend against the risk? What are your competitors going to do? How does it allow you to change your value proposition to your customers? Then you miss an opportunity. The implementation is making sure that you breathe it to life.
And the difference between a barrier and an opportunity isn't easy to see sometimes, is it?
No, the lines get blurred frequently between those things. So barriers, for example, might be all the reasons why you can't reach a market that you'd like to. Well, if technology changes the shape of the supply curve or improves the rate at which you can access a market, well, maybe those opportunities are now available to you. As far as an opportunity itself, a lot of times we think about how does technology unlock either better decision making, provide better access, improve effectiveness around things. For example, in China, has improved education access in rural communities. So technology can improve a lot of decision making, but that by itself typically isn't the type of thing that is transformational to a business. It's more the business model questions that wind up being transformational to a business.
I suppose a good example of that in the last decade is sharing economies.
It is. That's the classic example, and it's a buzzword. Lots of folks talk about sharing economy. From our perspective, what sharing economy is really about is the technology unlocking idle capacity, right? Whether you think about car service and the carpools of the Ubers and the Lyfts of the world, well, that was idle capacity that was otherwise unused, and it's valuable, right? And technology helped folks monetize that. The same thing is true with Airbnbs and the room sharing, or VRBO, right? If you're an executive inside the hotel industry 20 years ago, 15 years ago, you probably thought about your mandate is how do I manage my property and provide the best experience I possibly can to my customers. But if you think about it more holistically and say, really what I need to do is think about how do I come up with room solutions for my customers. And some of those rooms may not even be things that I own, right? They may just be things that I manage and monetize through technology. That's effectively what Airbnb is.
Well, that hotel example, is that an example of an industry being late off the mark, not seeing something on the horizon, and perhaps something that you might have seen had you been working with them at the time, you could have made them better informed?
Well, I don't want to second guess whether they should have seen it or we could have seen it. I think really what we can do is we can bring the thinking through on what we call second order thinking to these problems, which oftentimes, it's obvious in hindsight, but if you're not spending the appropriate amount of time at the outset, you can miss the opportunity, right? So how does it affect the customer? How does it affect the rest of the ecosystem? How does it affect competitive dynamics? How does it affect the value chain? A good example would be autonomous vehicles, right? Everybody's thinking about autonomous vehicles. Well, the obvious value proposition of autonomous vehicles are for fleet and traffic and business, maybe you don't need a driver behind it. If you're a consumer and you're going to work, well, maybe you can do some other things versus pay attention to how do you drive your car to work. Both of those things are valuable. But there are other things that are potentially valuable from that as well, right? If you've got a fleet that can be utilized and deployed to effectively run deliveries, think about all the different businesses that need delivery services, right? There's a lot of examples where autonomous vehicles, if managed as a collective resource, could be a solution to those challenges.
I'm interested in that phrase you use, second order thinking, but is there a dynamic where there's an organization that has potential, that understands where it wants to go, and although they've spent a large budget hiring you in to join them on that journey, they're still resistant, that there's a cultural barrier that you are now tasked to either ignore or go with, or actually try and break down a bit?
Yeah, that's a big issue. So a lot of times companies will believe the answer but not have the conviction to take action on it because there are other competing demands. Sometimes they don't believe the answer because it's too forward thinking, it might be a little bit too blue sky. What we try to do is make it very practical. We try to do the game theory, the war gaming around it, to try to say, here's what will happen if you don't do it, here's what will happen if you do it, here's how it could play out under various scenarios. The art element of it versus the science element is trying to think about how does an organization make themselves ready for that, right? And there are lots of buzzwords around agility and whatnot, but it is about having organizational flexibility to respond to those opportunities. It's about empowerment, making sure that people are empowered to make decisions downstream in the organization, because the rate of decisions that occur today related to disruption is just greater.
There must be times when that relationship gets tricky. I mean, how do you do it? Do you talk softly and carry a big stick? How does it work?
It's a matter of trying to build consensus in the organization with facts. And if you've done your work properly, you've brought in some lessons learned outside the industry, maybe outside the organization, you work with the various stakeholders and constituents to try to have them understand the implications of taking action and not taking action, you can build a consensus. We don't come in and try and push our way through an organization, but at the same time, we're very objective. We are unbiased in our answer. We're not there to try to buy any political favors by telling executives what they want to hear.
Okay, so final thought then, looking down the line, maybe just 10 years or 20 if you like, what sort of services do you think you'll be needed to provide in the future?
I think a lot of the services will be of a similar type, but I think really what it is the rate of change will continue to increase, and the need for objectivity will increase as a function of that. So look, failure rates are common in any innovation, any disruption, right? And you can do your best to try to manage against it by making better decisions or by having better information or big data, anything like that. You can't avoid failure rates. And if you think about technology speed increasing, which it's irrefutable it is, then the total quantum of failures that the average executive is going to face over the course of a year will increase. They need help to navigate those waters, and that's one of the things we can do.
Rob, thanks very much. Pleasure talking to you.
Likewise. Thank you.